All right. All right. Hi, everyone. Ramon Scott joining you. East County preview. We got games coming up in just a half hour. Having some connectivity issues. I'm going to go ahead and blame the heat on this one. Uh, uh, right now, just going to preview the games for this weekend. Of course, we got three games tonight on Thursday night, and of course, another slate of games coming up on Saturday. So let's get right to it because the games, by the time I finish this, just like last week, it'll be almost time for kickoff. I'm going to start this week with uh, Saturday night's game, however, because I want to talk about the Christian Patriots. You know, the Patriots have long been known for having high scoring games, thanks usually to a high flying offense through a series of great offensive minds. But while the Patriots have had some good defensive players over the years, which is all they've also lined up on offense, and sometimes the workload combined with some letdowns here and there because of their usual shorter roster, it's often led to opponents being able to stay in games. But this year's Christian high squad, and particularly the defense, did something last week that no team in the county has done in a mighty long time. Last Friday night against small school rival the Bishops, the Patriots recorded a 27-0 shutout, marking the first time that the Knights had been shut out in a regular season game since week 4 of 2006, when the Bishops fell to St. Margaret's of San Juan Capistrano 3-0. The Knights were not shut out from that point for the next 145 regular season games until Christian's shutout performance last week. And that brings up the opponent for the Patriots this week, none other than the Tartans of St. Margaret's. They'll come into Valley Stadium on Saturday night. Christian earned their points last week. They won the game, of course, 27-0 against the Bishops, as Shane Bailey made his first start at quarterback in place of injured starter Jake Davila, who watched the game from the box. He was resting an injury. Figured he'll be back this week for the game. He expected to return. Last season in week 2, Christian pulled off a terrific win up in San Juan Capistrano against the Tartans. 20-16. Davila rushed for a touchdown in the fourth quarter, and the Christian Christian defense stopped St. Margaret's on 3 consecutive fourth quarter drives and held the Tartans to 2 for 13 on third down in the game. This will be the third meeting all time between the clubs. Last year, St. Margaret's won at home back in 2014 in a Southern California regional playoff game, 48-21. Christian, of course, was blanked in the opener, 28-0. We know now that Ramona is always pretty good. They're even better, it looks like, this year. The Tartans are 0-2 coming in. They'll be a considerable underdog, I think, this time around. I've got Christian winning this one by 10 points. All right, let's get to some of the Thursday action now. I'm a little flustered with the internet, but hey, aren't we all? Let's start with San Marcos and Steele Canyon, a couple of teams that a lot of times, you'll find them right there somewhere in the top 10, maybe around the bottom, maybe hanging out just outside. But right now, these teams are a little bit down from there. The Cougars ended up, of course, with just those 3 wins last season, playing that monster schedule. But one of their wins came against San Marcos, and it was a thriller, 29-23. The Cougars trailed 23-7 in that one, but scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter in a massive comeback as Major Givens, following a slow first half in that one, finished with 245 yards and 3 touchdowns, including 2 TDs in the final 10 minutes. The matchup tonight figures to be pretty close ball game. The Cougars ran into a juggernaut last week. They played number 3 Madison on the road. Givens still had a big night against one of the county's most respected defenses. He rushed for 225 yards on 30 carries, but it was Steele that allowed the big night on the ground to the Warhawks, over 300 yards. The Knights won their opener, but fell last week at home to Mt Mesa. We know Mt Mesa lost to Helix, so you can kind of make the comparisons there. Maybe for the Cougars' title chances in the Grossmont Hills League this season, the Eagles and the Cougars are looking up, certainly at the Highlanders right now. It should be noted the Marauders were rocked by Helix in that season opener. The Knights can throw, that's for sure. Freshman quarterback Crete Makahele has thrown for 735 yards and 8 touchdowns in just 2 games. San Marcos passes at better than a 2-to-1 ratio, and San Marcos has 6 sacks on defense so far this season. Steele Canyon has rushed 89 times and thrown just 15 times, completing just 7 passes. Steele has won a pair of playoff games in this series history in 2009 and 2012, both at home. The contrast of styles could make for another close and exciting game tonight. I've got Steele Canyon by a point. The Mt Miguel Matadors are going to take on the Montgomery Aztecs. And if anything, the Matadors are one of the stories of the East County so far, and hopefully soon they'll be one of the stories of the county. They're one of the surprise teams in the county after a road shutout last week against Chula Vista 29-0. Combined with their 42-0 win at home over Sweetwater, the Matadors could extend that streak tonight. The Aztecs won last week, remember, against Santana, but they scored just 6 points. It took kind of a desperation pass for them to get that touchdown in the fourth quarter. So Mt Miguel's defense, they're looking good. It's going to be a tough game tonight, certainly. Montgomery can be a pretty tough ball club, but Mt Miguel, man, they're looking good. They have a legitimate passing combo as junior quarterback Matthew Barton, the transfer from Steele Canyon, and junior Jeremiah Castillo, who's been emerging as a star now, but really now that he's got a chance to be a wide receiver full time and a good defender, really stepping up his play as well. They really right now might be the best passing tandem, if you will, in all of the Grossmont Valley League with 12 connections, including 4 touchdowns. But they aren't one-dimensional. They have Davian McGowan and Antrell Burbage in the backfield, and the Matadors are averaging 6 yards per rush. And the Matadors have also made big noise on the defensive side of the ball. They racked up 12 sacks in 2 games, including 4 from junior Aaron Carter. The Aztecs lost to Coronado in their opener 13-6 before last week's win over Santana. So there's some more common opponents there, if you will, as Mt Miguel maybe is stepping up as a serious contender now in the Grossmont Valley League. We know that West Hills and El Capitan, they'll probably stand on top still. West Hills maybe a little bit down this year. They've got to work on that offense a little bit. El Cap is looking still pretty good on offense and defense, but they're the team that finished second to West Hills last year, but look out for Mt Miguel. Montgomery will have its work cut out for them. They've gained just 357 yards in 2 games. The Aztecs' fine defense is led by junior Arath Leva, who has 3 sacks so far. Mt Miguel, serious contender in the Grossmont Valley League, I'm sure of it, and Mt Miguel is going to win this one, maybe by about a touchdown. Olympian is going to take on West Hills on Thursday night. The West Hills Wolfpack could only manage 3 points last week in a trip to face the Imperial Tigers. Maybe the conditions here in Santee are going to be just as hot. After crunching Grossmont in the opener 24-6, maybe West Hills wilted a bit in that desert heat. A little bit drier maybe than it is out here. The Pack figure to bounce back this week against the Olympians, but like I said, still look to improve on offense with new quarterback Colin Dill. He's definitely one of the fastest players on a football field in the East County. Maybe not quite the passing quarterback, or the offense might not even be the same type of offense as they were last year, but he is more of a running threat than a passing force probably at this point. West Hills may need to work on that diversity if they're going to repeat as league champions. They'll need to focus defensively on Eagle quarterback Christian Noriega's pass for 325 yards and 3 touchdowns with no interceptions so far. I think the Wolfpack defense can handle the assignment. West Hills probably possesses the Grossmont Valley League's #1 defensive unit, with all due respect to those other 2 contenders, just based on the fact they've got Defensive Player of the Year from the Grossmont Valley League, Braden Wilson. Olympian has a pretty good defense as well. They have 13 sacks in 2 games, including 3 players with 3 sacks each. Last year was the first ever meeting between the clubs. The Wolfpack won that one 41-12 at Olympian. That was also in week 3. Junior Tyler Haley, one of the best place kickers in the county this season for sure. He had 2 field goals in that one, including a 43-yarder, but Noriega, he did throw for 2 touchdowns, both their scores to now junior Jacob Martial, who is also part of this year's club. Hasn't really gotten off to a great start so far, so I've got West Hills winning this one by a touchdown. All right, let's turn to Friday now, and we're going to start with the highest-ranked team in the East County, the Helix Highlanders. They're going to entertain Mountain View of Mesa, Arizona. The Highlanders, the early returns are impressive in wins over Mira Mesa and Otay Ranch. Could the Highlanders still be underrated as they climb the charts a little bit? Ranked just number 6. Maybe the opponents haven't been what we need for the Highlanders to get up there. Those top teams are looking so good. But last week, Helix just blitzed Otay Ranch and former Eagle great coach Burton. But in his second stint with Otay Ranch, Otay just not quite where they have been in the last few years. They're rebuilding a little bit. Helix led 49-0 at halftime, and quite frankly, I left the game because Helix just was blowing him out, doing a great job. Junior quarterback Rylan Jesse, he might finally be starting to gain that attention around the county that he deserves. 8 touchdown passes with no interceptions. He's right now as a 3-star quarterback, so Rylan is going to start getting attention for sure. But you know what? It's Highlander senior tight end Quincy Heron, who's been one of the top performers in the county so far, that doesn't seem to get the attention either. He's got 6 touchdowns on just 9 receptions. Of course, we know he had the 4 touchdowns in game 1. He had 2 touchdowns. I think it was maybe both were in the first quarter last week, whatever the case may be. They were both in the first half. 6 touchdowns on the season for Heron. He's been one of the best players so far in the entire county. He's really tough to watch. That highlight was terrific where Otay Ranch was calling out to watch 19, and sure enough, they threw it to Heron. He got the touchdown anyways. Helix junior defensive back Jackson Daniels may have been Helix's player of the week, but he could have been the defensive player of the week in the county with his 3 interceptions, returning 1 for a touchdown. The Highlanders defense is stout. They have plenty of talent, but they might just be a strong unit and don't have a standout player. Sure, they have several standouts, but they work so together cohesively that you really couldn't, pick one from another. But guys like Cairo Kahananui, they really just have a great defense right now. Right, and I think in this one, Mountain View is going to come in. They're going to be an underdog. They're in the top division, certainly in Arizona, and they are ranked pretty high over there. I think they're 10th in Class 6A. But they went 7-4 last season. This is their season opener. The Toro quarterback is Jack Germain, who's a junior. He's the son of head coach Joe Germain. And guys my age, dads out there might remember Germain, the former Ohio State quarterback who led Arizona State to that 1997 Rose Bowl victory, the pass interference calls on ASU the last minute. Michael Wiley was on Ohio State that year, the former Monta Vista great. He played in that game. Jack Germain, the quarterback this year for the Toros, passed for 2,300 yards last season, 22 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. So Helix will have to watch for him, and they'll also have to watch for receiver Jackson Bowers, a BYU commit. He returns for his senior season. He had 861 yards and 5 touchdowns last year. You got to figure Adrian Parker can lock down on Bowers. He's probably going to be the guy, right? I would think. Mountain View, interestingly, I'll add this. Mountain View, they're ranked 10th in their division, in the 6A division there in Arizona, and the number 6 team in that division, Red Mountain, hosts Mater Dei Catholic. That's our Mater Dei Catholic, also on Friday night. So get a little comparison with top teams, as people have talked a little bit about this week, how teams from Arizona are meeting teams from San Diego. How will our teams match up? I like our chances in both these games. The Toros don't have the talent, I don't think, to match up with all that Helix has, but the conditions right now are going to be sweltering, just like today. I think that's what's going on here with my internet. And you got to figure Helix will be able to adjust, even though maybe Arizona, the weather could favor them, the team from Arizona. But I've got Helix at least by 2 touchdowns. The El Capitan Vaqueros are going to take on the La Jolla Vikings. The Vaqueros have allowed just 13 points so far in their 2 wins, including last week's 9-7 win over Hilltop on the road. Senior Austin Cordero has a pair of interceptions so far for El Cap, and leads the team with 18 tackles, including 8 solo stops. Offensively, El Capitan may have a little bit more of a serious passing attack than last year's spectacular club. We know what Savion Yoakley brought to the table, but with Bruce Newland and Brant Barker, they've combined for 411 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. Senior Julian May has been a terror in the yak department, the yards after catch. They get it to him, and I see him running down the field every time. He's got 200 receiving yards on 7 receptions so far. Sophomore Chance LaChapa leads the team with 8 receptions. Still, this game figures to be tough for El Capitan going to La Jolla. They beat a good Scripps Ranch club. We know Leatherwood was out, got injured in that game. That one was 28-21. Leatherwood actually was injured the week before when La Jolla dropped its opener to rival Bishops. We talk about Bishops certainly because of their matchup with Christian. So La Jolla lost to Bishops 28-7. The Knights were shut out by the Patriots on this very field that these teams will play on Friday night. La Jolla junior quarterback Jackson Deal has passed for 350 yards and 5 touchdowns in the 2 contests so far for the Vikings. The Vikings are a balanced team, but have yet to score a touchdown on the ground. This is the first ever meeting between El Cap and La Jolla. I got La Jolla edging out El Capitan. Let's go, Vaqueros. Prove me wrong in this one. All right, the Granite Hills Eagles are going to host the Oceanside Pirates, a rematch of the 1975 Division IIA championship game, which was a thriller, wasn't it? Everyone that you guys might remember this one, Oceanside won that game 25-14. How about this coaching matchup? Herb Meyer defeated Dwight Morris in that one, but this will be the Pirates' first trip into Valley Stadium, and they should be able to make it a good contest right now. After losing their opener to number 8 Poway, now number 8 Poway, 31-19, Granite Hills beat up former rival Valhalla 59-6 last Friday, and now Granite Hills has outscored Valhalla. I want to say 270-21 over the last 5 games. So we got to get this game off the schedule, even though I keep whining about Valley League teams trying to find matchups with Hills League teams. Now I hear a rumor Santana is going to the Hills League. Tell me that is not right. Please, someone tell me that's not really going to be the case. I mean, not that Santana can't rebuild and start to challenge again in the Valley League, but if that happens as soon as next year, that's not going to cut it. I know maybe we're trying to find solutions here, but I just don't know what the answer is. Oceanside lost to San Clemente in their opener 48-7, then lost to Saints 27-24 in double overtime last week. I've got Granite Hills winning this one by a field goal. The El Cajon Valley Braves are going to take on Vincent Memorial. El Cajon Valley is coming off a historic shutout of visiting Hoover, but the 2-0 Scots definitely have a serious challenge here for the Braves' momentum. Kal-El Gordon scored 5 touchdowns last week, and he hardly gets the attention he deserves, but in talking to Gordon last week after the game, and he only had 128 yards rushing, but he didn't need it. He found the end zone, like I said, 5 times. But you know what? It's just fine with him. He seems to thrive on the team's overall success. But the Braves are going to have to corral Vincent quarterback Jacobo Elias, who has 742 yards of total offense this season, including 617 through the air. Senior receiver Armando Apodaca has 8 receptions for 189 yards thus far. The Scots won the meeting last year in Calexico against the Braves 14-12. The Braves led that game 12-7 in the fourth quarter before the Scots scored the go-ahead touchdown late in the game. Jacobo had 268 yards of total offense in that one. Gordon rushed for 85 yards and had an interception. The teams met twice pre-pandemic in 2019. They won. Vincent won the regular season meeting 35-6 in El Cajon before shutting out the Braves 23-0 in a playoff meeting in Calexico. The Braves have a cohesive club, but this is a tough matchup. I've got Vincent winning this one by a touchdown. Those Santana Sultans are going to take on the Coronado Islanders in a rematch of one of the most exciting games of the season last year. Even though it was only 10-7, the Sultans won in overtime, remember, on that Jackson Scott field goal. Friday's matchup figures to be just as close and maybe just as low scoring. The Sultans, certainly, they're looking for that first win of the year. They can beat Coronado, I think. Santana was shut out last week by Montgomery. They scored that touchdown in the fourth quarter on about a 23-yard pass. Not necessarily a Hail Mary, but it was a third or a fourth down situation. They went for the pass in the end zone. The Coronado, the receiver from Montgomery, jumped between two Santana defenders, came down with the touchdown for the only points of the game. But hats off to the defense of the Sultans. Senior Logan Ellis had 4 sacks in that one, and Keith Mizell had an interception for the second straight week. The Sultans lost their opener 48-10 to Point Loma. We know now Point Loma, pretty good club again this year. So the teams do have a common opponent already, as Coronado knocked off the Aztecs 13-6 in the season opener. Coronado followed that up with a loss against Sweetwater 9-7. So you could see this isn't the teams where when Santana was racking up those games with big numbers against teams. This is going to be a low-scoring game. Maybe a benefit for Santana. This is Coronado's third straight road game to open the season. Islander junior quarterback Graham Bauer has 190 yards of total offense, but he has 3 interceptions so far and no touchdown passes. Sultans lead the all-time series 5-1. Santana recorded its only postseason shutout ever back in 2014 with a 44-0 victory over the Coronado Islanders. So given the early returns, these teams may need a roadmap to find the end zone. I've got Coronado winning this one by a touchdown. It'll probably be like 13-7 or something. Come on, Santana. All right, the Warren Bears are going to come on into Grossmont High and take on the Foothillers. The Bears beat Downey the Bears of Downey beat Grossmont last week 40-7 in a week 3 matchup up in Downey, and this year's matchup doesn't figure to be much closer. Downey features 5-star quarterback Nico Iamilava, who is committed to Tennessee. He's a 5-star quarterback. He threw for 350 yards and 6 touchdowns against Grossmont last season. Grossmont junior quarterback Hudson Herbert's passed for 168 yards, no interceptions so far this season. He also has rushed for 52 yards. The Foothillers were nearly shut out in both their games so far, scoring a touchdown in the game's final minute in both their contests. The Hillers opened the season with losses to West Hills and at El Camino last week. Warren going to be a pretty big favorite here. They're probably going to win by, maybe 5-6 touchdowns or so. So, Grossmont will learn from this and gain some experience for sure. And the Point Loma Pointers are going to take on the Valhalla Norsemen. The Norsemen host, like I said, a pretty good Pointers team. They'll be considerable underdogs here. This is the second meeting, and it may not be as close as the first, which came in a 2006 playoff game at Point Loma, which the Pointers won 30-18. Last week, they did have a bright spot. Alton Finner turned in that 55-yard touchdown against Granite Hills. It was 59-6. The Eagles ended up winning that game. Point Loma senior quarterback Jackson Emerson has passed for 306 yards in 2 games, which includes a 49-10 win over another GVL club, the Santana Sultans. We talked about that game. The Pointers also lost to Central last Friday, 30-16. We're seeing now that the Spartans are pretty good. They're ranked 12th in the county. I had them 10th in my vote in the UT poll this week. So the teams, given the East County, yes, we do have some great stories with the Highlanders and the Matadors and the Braves and the Vaqueros so far this season, but we're looking for some bright spots here, and Point Loma is probably going to end up winning this one probably by about 5 touchdowns. We need the rest of these teams to get up to speed because these Imperial Valley teams we're looking pretty good actually. So some of these games will be pretty tough in the opening rounds here. So that's going to do it this week. Hopefully this was okay. Let me get on out of here and get to the games. Like I said, we're just a few minutes away from kickoff for these games on Thursday night. Hope to see you out there. And thanks for joining me on the East County Prep Football Report. I'm Ramon Scott.